Welcome to another follow-along movement session. The topic for today's session is mobility, so that means we're going to be moving in and out of end ranges of motion to help mobilize the fronts and backs of the hips, the insides and outsides of the hips, the upper back, the thoracic spine area, and the fronts and backs of the shoulders. At a couple of points in the session, you're going to need access to a wall, something like a wall. Hopefully, I'm not being too presumptuous in assuming that if you don't have access to a wall, then mobility is probably not your top priority right now. So just make sure you're near a wall, you're not out in the middle of an oval or anything like that, because you're going to need one for a couple of the drills. We're going to start on the floor in a shin box position or a 90-90 position. The reason it's called the 90-90 position is because we have 90-degree angles or right angles at the ankles, knees, and between the thighs here. Okay, so you should see this square here. That's always there. From here, keeping the heels where they are, we're going to transition over to the same position on the other side. And you'll use the hands on the floor behind you for assistance. Both knees touch the floor on each side. If it's easy, try to maintain a more upright torso throughout the movement. And if it's still easy, you can try to do it without any hand assistance. If you need the assistance, just use it and build up to doing the unassisted version with time. We're doing around 10 reps each side. Good. Okay, from here, now we'll use the wall. We're going to go into a butterfly position, so you'll wedge the butt into the corner of the wall here, and then press the spine into the wall. So every part of the spine except for the neck will be against the wall. Bring the heels in as close to the butt as you can, feet together. From here, just with the hands on the feet, we're going to pulse up and down at the knees. If when you get into this position, your knees are already resting on the floor, then you can elevate the feet using either a book or a yoga block or something like that. So pulsing up and down at the knees. So it's just very light ballistic stretching. Good. Next, we'll place the hands under the knees, and you're going to be pushing into your knees with your hands, and then pushing down with your knees into your hands. I think I got that right. So pushing up with the hands, down with the knees. Just do an isometric hold here. Good, and relax. Now we're going to push down with the hands and up with the knees. And the hands should be winning. Okay, relax. And then hands can go back onto the feet, and we'll just drive the knees down as much as possible for another 10 seconds. Okay, good. Next we'll stand up, and we're going to do a little bit of work on the T-spine. The position we're going to work with here might not be accessible for some people. If that's the case for you, just try to find an alternative that works for you that's similar enough to what we're doing. And so the main constraint I'm trying to work with here, and ideally you stick with that constraint as well, is having clear contact between the belly and the thighs. Okay, so we're going to bend the knees here. My belly's on the thighs. Hands will be either under the feet, or if that's not possible or it's uncomfortable for any reason, they can be behind, holding onto the legs here. Okay, in this position, while maintaining that clear contact between the abdomen and the thighs, we're going to lift the head up and down. Lift the head up, so it's like you're trying to look at the ceiling,
and then bring it back down. And I'm not doing this just to move my neck. I'm doing it to try to bring movement into the upper back. So see if you can lift the head from the center of the upper back. So we're flossing the T-spine here. And hold. Breathe. Relax. Take the feet a little wider. Now we're going to do some rotational movement. So hook the left hand around the outside of the right ankle. And so the constraint here again will be the left side of the abdomen will be in contact with the left thigh. With the right elbow bent, we're going to rotate up towards the ceiling and try to take in as much of the ceiling above and behind you as possible. So you're looking up and back. And again, the purpose of that movement of the eyes, trying to take in as much of the world behind you, is just to maximize the amount of rotation happening in the upper back. Okay, now hold. Maximize that rotation. See if you can look behind you. And change sides. So now the right thigh is staying in contact with the right side of the abdomen. And hold. Okay, relax. Good, come back up. The reason we're working with that constraint is to lock off the lower back into a rounded position and to help maximize movement in the upper back. Most of us are really locked up immobile in the upper back, and many of us are hypermobile in the lower back, and that leads to injury in the lower back and ossification of this entire rib cage area. Good, next we're going to use a straddle position to bring a stretch into the backs and insides of the hips, of the legs. So you'll set up you'll figure out for yourself what sort of width is sustainable. We're going to spend a little bit of time in this position, so perhaps not going into the fully extreme standing middle split position is the best idea to begin with. Just figure out what's suitable for you. Okay, we also want it to be some sort of challenge, so don't be too conservative. From here, you'll bend your knees, and then we're going to hinge forward to where the spine is roughly horizontal, okay, or as close as you can get it to horizontal as possible. From here, keeping the spine in the same position, we're going to extend the legs and then bend them. Straighten the legs, bend them. Make sure you fully straighten the legs every rep. Okay, extend and hold. Drive the heels back through the floor. If you need to adjust the position of the feet, you can. Take them wider or closer together. And from here, we're going to round forward. You can bring the elbows to the floor, or if that's not possible, the hands, or ideally the head. Just round as far forward as you can. And hold. That was probably very loud. I'm sorry about that. Okay, bring the feet together. Great, so now we're going to do some work on the front of the hip in a lunge position, a long lunge. Again, you'll moderate the difficulty of this exercise by bringing the feet closer together, make it easier, or farther apart to make it harder. From this position, we're cueing a tail tuck to flatten the lower back. So I'm bringing my pelvis and ribcage together here, not allowing the lower back to arch. Pelvis and ribcage together. If your left knee is forward, then your left hand is going on the back, right hand on the stomach. Maintaining this position, we're going to drive the back knee away. Sorry, the back heel away so that the knee comes off the floor. And then when you go down, you're just lightly touching the kneecap to the floor. Okay, straighten and hold. Relax. Change sides. Start in the same position. Again, if you need to, bring the feet much closer together. That's completely fine. We don't want to be leaning too far forward on this one. So if anything, favor shifting the weight into the back leg to, again, bring more load and more of a stretch into the front of this back hip. And we're also trying to avoid bringing the hips up and down too much. The hips stay roughly at the same level the whole time, and it's just a straightening and bending of the back knee. Or again, you can think about driving the heel away from you and bringing it back towards you. So if the right leg's forward, the right hand's on the back, left hand on the belly, bring the pelvis and ribcage together, and then drive your heel away. Lightly touch the kneecap to the floor. And hold. Don't allow the lower back to overextend. So draw the pelvis and ribcage together. Don't let this hip turn out. Try to keep the hips as square as possible. Okay, come down. Good. Okay, so that's a lot for the hips. Let's do a little bit of work for the shoulders, for the upper body. So the first one will be a shoulder extension drill. We're going to start with the fingers pointing back. And we're just going to use a classic kind of crab or tabletop position that many of you have probably seen or done before. Fingers pointing back, and from here, we're driving the chest up as much as possible and bringing the shoulder blades together and down. Chest up, scaps together. And hold. Pinch the shoulder blades together as much as you can. Retract the scapulae. Lift the chest up. And relax. Okay, and finally we'll do a little bit of shoulder flexion and again some extension of the T-spine. So we're going to use that same trick we used before of keeping the abdomen in contact with the thighs to round the lower back and lock it off so that we can move in through the upper back and through the shoulders instead. Figure out what distance from the wall is appropriate for you. Hands will be on the wall, roughly shoulder width apart. They could be a little bit wider. The arms will be straight. And from here, keeping the thighs in contact with the belly, we'll drive the chest down and up, down and up. So it's as if I'm trying to touch the very top of my chest to the floor. Keep the arms straight. Okay, hold. Keeping the hands where they are, pull them down the wall as you hold. And out.
Okay, so there are all the drills for today's session. I would highly recommend that you go back and do them all once more, or ideally twice more. So ideally you will have done 3 sets of all of the drills, and you can just skip back to the start of the video and follow along with me again. Once you've done that a few times, you'll probably get familiar with the movements and you'll just be able to do it on your own without the video. Maybe check back in from time to time to make sure you're doing things correctly. If you do find this beneficial, then please pass it on to friends. Please continue doing it. This material can really, really work, especially for people who describe themselves as immobile, inflexible. You think you've always been that way. That was the case for me. And this sort of material completely transformed my body with time, with repetition. So thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.